Hello, Klaus here, and welcome back to yet another video. If you are into filmmaking content, please consider subscribing for more content every week. Okay, in this video, I want to compare the Blackmagic Pocket 4K camera with the little brother or the older version of it, and kind of see what is the difference between those two. So, without further ado, let's get out shooting. Okay, so here we are on the first stop on the test of the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K versus the Blackmagic original Pocket camera. And for this test, I will shoot very fast because I only have one battery for the old camera, which won't last me that long. And for this part of the test, we will be shooting on the Lumix 12-35 lens. So let's get right to it. Okay, so we just start out here with a shot from the original Pocket camera and then a little grade applied. Again, these are shot in ProRes and all the shots are done on the Lumix 12-35mm lens. And as you see out of the grade, it is very gradable, and it isn't done a lot to it actually. It's just a little of contrast and saturation and color boost and stuff like that. Okay, so here we go to the new version, the 4K version. Again, everything is shot in HD to keep the comparison fair, I think. And again, ProRes 4:2 and some little grade applied. And I do think it looks pretty good. So as you will see, the crop factor of the two cameras are also a little bit different. It is a little bit wider on the 4K. So here we go to Cinema G&G on the old classic. Again, same setup, same lens. The difference between the Cinema G&G and then the BRAW, which are coming up right after, right in a minute here, are that I was shooting the BRAW in 1080 or in HD, and that actually crops the sensor a bit. Or actually crops the sensor a lot. So it is a bit harder to get the BRAW wider since I am shooting in HD. But if I was shooting in the 4K, I wouldn't have had this crop and the pictures would have been wider. So just keep that in mind. Okay, for the next test we are going to use the VILTROX and put some EF mount lenses on the camera and try that out and also see what the Focal Reducer can do for the camera. So let's get right to it. Okay, so here we are again, now shooting on a Samyang 35mm, again in Cinema G&G, using the VILTROX Focal Reducer 0.71. And again, here we are on the classic Pocket, and we are not going to get a cropped image at all out of this camera. So here we go to the cinema camera, or the 4K version, and as you will see here, it is cropped in quite a bit because I am shooting in HD, again to keep the comparison fair. If I had shot in 4K, I wouldn't have had this option or this problem at all. But that's just the way this test was done. So for the next test, I'm going to shoot on a Sigma 50-200mm and at 200mm, and this is with the VILTROX speed booster on. And then I'm going to shift it into another one, and you will see that this is actually cropping the image quite a lot if I'm not using the speed booster. Again, this was on the original camera, so now we'll go to the 4K version of the same camera, again a Sigma at the 200mm. So here we have it with the speed booster, and I think it's pretty lovely. And now we're going to shift it out to a cheap or normal adapter without the glass element, and this is what we then will have. As you see, it will crop the speed booster are reducing or are making our field of view wider, which is super nice. Okay, so now we have had a look at the old classic Pocket Cinema Camera and the newer 4K version, both the MFT versions, of course. And as you see, there is, again, some differences with these cameras. For instance, the original pocket camera is actually a pocket camera, and the new 4K version is a pocket camera if you are a giant. So again, size does matter in some cases. In some cases where you want to be absolute invisible, the small one will really keep you invisible, and this one not so much. But anyway, it is, again, two cameras that are working in different ways. So for instance, the on the small one, we have all our inputs here. We have a time code, a headphone, and a audio, and a micro USB, and a power connection. So one of the downsides to this camera is the battery life is really not that good. So you need some kind of a solution for that. The audio inputs are not good, hardly usable actually. So on that note, you also need to have some kind of a different way of recording audio. And the way I did that when I used this a lot, I was using a Zoom H6 recorder, which was a very good recorder, but then you need to sync it in post, and again, that's not too hard. The very good thing about this one is that it's small and it's super light, and actually, even though there is a big crop factor on this one, it is actually good with the native MFT lenses, like the Lumix 12 to 35 is super great in this one, and it is like a super small package. And if you have some kind of a battery solution, this will of course be a little bit bigger, but other than that, it is still a great camera, even though it shoots in 1080. The 1080 coming out of this camera here is very good. So again, and if we then take a look at the now absolutely bigger brother here, again, we have more or less the same ports in the sides, just that we have some other options here. We have, again, we have a microphone in, a head jack, an HDMI, and a power, and a USB-C. And then, of course, we have the XLR micro or mini audio out of this thing, which is super handy. The battery life of this is way better. I hear a lot of people complaining about the battery life of this. I don't think that around 45 minutes of non-stop shooting is a bad battery life. For me, that is pretty good. And then I would just swap out the battery if it was any problem. But for me, that is not an issue at all. It is, again, a bigger camera, but I have big hands, and it's just lovely. It is, for me, it feels like the old classic cinema camera more than a pocket camera. So for me, this is more like an upgrade to that. But again, then again, also the screen, it's touch screen, and the interface on this camera is superior to the one we have on the classic one. So again, also the screen on this one is a small screen. It's not a touch screen, and it's almost nearly impossible to watch when you are filming outside, unless, of course, you put some kind of a loop on. I've done that for a lot of shoots. I had like a Scudo loop made for this camera, so that was awesome, and I still have it somewhere, and I do use it on occasionally when I use this camera. That was a lot of talk about the two cameras. So the big question is here, is it still a usable camera here in 2019? It only shoots in 1080. For me, that is not a problem. It's super great 1080, and you can up-res that in Davinci Resolve to 4K if you want to, and it isn't that bad at all. So I think if you are new to filmmaking in general, and you want to learn how to shoot RAW and how to color grade that using Davinci Resolve, this is a super great entry level, because the price of these on eBay are super low, and it is still a good camera, and it is a good beginner camera, I think. I know a lot of people are saying that you should start to use a DSLR if you want to be a filmmaker and want to learn stuff on that and then upgrade. That is not my opinion at all. I actually started out learning a lot of things on the original cinema camera. So, and also I think that was easier. And then I had more troubles jumping to a DSLR because of everything isn't that as manual as in this. And I think it's a good knowledge to have. Okay, I could ramble on about this forever, and I am not going to do that. So anyway, I do hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, share it with your friends if you think it will help them out. And if you want to be notified every time there's a new video on the channel, please hit that bell icon down in the corner. Until next time, keep filming, keep learning, and keep sharing.